we decided that we will feature young, aspiring India. We have two young achievers. Nandini is a Guinness Book World Record holder. She is the youngest female chartered accountant in the world. And Dyumna, you've been a serial entrepreneur by the time of 20, starting at 13, 14. Your pitch at season 4 has been phenomenal.
I think most of my life has been, my motto has been कि औकात के बाहर खेलना चाहिए हमेशा. I've emailed everyone. I've emailed Ranveer Alapadhyay also. And the subject line was your best investment.
So today we live in a world that says it's going to be India's decade. What are your views?
One word is growth. Like, people see growth here. I'm seeing that entrepreneurial shift in India. A lot of people are coming out of their comfort zone and trying to build something on their own. And personally, this inspires me a lot every single day.
If you fail at something that is a regular path, it's still okay. But if you fail at something that's an unconventional path, everyone's like, yaar, humne to bola tha. I remember I had a wall, and this was in 7th standard, of stuff people had said to me and people had to prove wrong.
Yes, we are trying to change our curriculum, but we are very far. A 7th grade student still thinks about कि कल test है और ये मुझे याद करना. I need to learn this. Because nowadays people are promoting hustling culture a lot. You should work 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week. Like, why?
I'll disagree slightly there.
One advice to a startup founder starting out now. 3 things that you would want a CA aspirant to avoid. Hi, and welcome to the We Women Project. We are on episode 14, and this is a very special episode, the Independence Day episode. And we decided that we will feature young, aspiring India, know their thoughts, know their stories, and how they see the next decade that belongs to this country. We have two young achievers in Nandini and Dyumna. Such a pleasure to have you both. Very quickly for the audience, Nandini is a Guinness Book World Record holder. She is the youngest female chartered accountant in the world, and she got AAR1 in India. So that's phenomenal. Congratulations. And at 19,
Yeah,
Nandini.
right.
And you also cleared your intern at 16.
Yes.
She also has worked at the Big Four and then moved on to being in consulting at BCG and right now in a private equity firm. So a lot of achievement in a period of within 20, 21. Phenomenal. Hearty congratulations and so happy to have
Thanks
you.
a lot for having us here.
And Dyumna, where do I start about you? I think Project Clay has been so inspiring. Your pitch at season 4 has been phenomenal. Those of you who haven't seen it, please go watch it right now. I was floored for sure. And I think you picked up such a niche and a very valid theme that required the kind of effort that you had started to put in.
Right.
And then when I started understanding about you, I think you've been a serial entrepreneur by the time of 20, starting at 13, 14. So it's a phenomenal journey and we'd love to hear all about it
Yes.
on this podcast. Very excited to have you both here. And thank you once again.
Oh, thank you for having us. Thank you.
So my first question is, when the Guinness Book happened, Guinness World Record happened, or when the Shark Tank check got handed over to you or Shark Tank appearance came to you, how did it feel? Was it like, surreal, unexpected, or something that you had been working for and, had to happen?
So for me, when I was in 12th standard, there was a person who came to my school. He was a Guinness Book of World Record holder. I was so fascinated about this record and I thought, okay, how does one get it? I searched a lot, then I realized it's a very esteemed record to have. I just made a dream at that point of time, maybe someday I would have it, although I didn't know how would I get it. When I cleared my CA inter, the news people made this headline, okay, this girl cleared CA inter at the age of 16. And then it just struck me, okay, if I clear my CA final at the age of 19, which is next 3 years, maybe there can be a record around it. And I just read about it if there is any CA at the age of 19 or 18. Maybe there was a CA who was at the age of 18. He was in Dubai. And I just thought maybe it can happen to me as well. So making Guinness Book of World Record was always there in my subconscious thought.
Wow.
But like getting it with All India rank 1, I think these all were the brownie points kind of thing that happened to me. So it was a surreal feeling. It was, that one childhood dream that you have seen, and you finally realize, oh, it's happening. So it was a great feeling, and it opened up a lot of opportunities for me. It's like whenever I share my CV with a company, it would get picked up. If I want to talk to someone, I would get a reply. So it opened up a plethora of opportunities for me.
And what made you dream? I mean, this must have required a lot of effort. And where did you grow up, Nandini?
I grew up in a small town called Morena, which is near Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh. So I think for dreaming, I think I told you, right? That person came to my school when I was in 12th standard. So such small incidents, they always remain in your mind, and you never know what is impacting you.
Yeah, true. And you, Dyumna?
Yeah, so I think most of my life has been, my motto has been कि औकात के बाहर खेलना चाहिए हमेशा. Okay. क्योंकि like if I don't try, I'll be a no anyways. But if I try, maybe something might work out. Right. So Shark Tank also, I think I'd been applying for every single season. And without anything, right? Season 1, I just had an idea.
Okay.
Season 2, we had a summer program that 500 students had attended. Season 3, we had a summer program that 4,000 students had attended. Season 4, I finally had a monetization plan, but we were still doing only 10,000 rupees a month. Right? And every time I get to round 2 and get rejected. Right? Season 4, finally something cracked. Right? So whenever I'm shooting these shots, I have no expectations. Like, I got an internship at a firm in Bangalore just because I cold emailed the founder. And these are Forbes 30 under 30 guys. I didn't think they'd respond, but I just emailed them. I've emailed everyone. I've emailed Ranveer Alabadya also. And the subject line was, your best investment. Like, I have an immense ego. Right? And I think you have to take those big shots.
Right.
So I had no expectation for Shark Tank to happen, honestly. It just did, and I think that's a dream bucket list item for all entrepreneurs.
Right.
I didn't think it happened so early. I thought I'd have to apply to season 30 at least. Right? No, so I'm just immensely grateful. I didn't think it happened. Yeah.
But you already had got a check from Ankur Walkar, right?
Correct. So the thing is, in terms of teen entrepreneurship, right? I think I've made a lot of money just winning entrepreneurship competition for teenagers. Okay. And there, I think what happens is most teenagers show up with a business plan. Right? I always show up with stuff already done. Correct.
That's a huge difference.
Very massive difference.
Yes.
Right? So in terms of teen entrepreneurship competitions, it was easier to win because kids were showing up with like, oh, we'll build AI powered mirrors, stuff that needed 3, 10, 15, 20 crores in funding. My thing was already, look, I know it's not a brilliant idea, but it exists. I've worked towards it, and your money will only help accelerate this. Right? When you get funding in these competitions, you don't have to prove where the money is going. Right? So most students will spend it on maybe a holiday, right? Yes. Mine was very clear, look, it'll go, you're going to support an entrepreneur.
Right.
So those were not an issue. Like winning Ankur Wariku's check or, these was not validation as such. Shark Tank was obviously everyone in India applying. So I didn't think I had a shot. But thankfully they saw something.
That's phenomenal. So, I mean, that's exactly why we have both of you on the platform, right? One has honed the intellectual space, like, aced it, and one has honed the storytelling and building. So I think it reflects in some ways India as it is today. And in the same breath, I want to say that one of you is a LinkedIn influencer and one of you is an Insta influencer. Am I right in saying that?
We would not like to call ourselves influencers.
Okay. But in our eyes, I mean, given the following with the kind of messaging that you are taking out, all the jokes apart, I think, what you're trying to communicate to a larger audience and the kind of aspirations that you are trying to build in this community is again very commendable. So, I'm sorry, but I'm going to be using the word influencer again. And see, so what do you feel when somebody says the word influencer or uses this with both of you?
So, for me, I think 10 years back, people used to say this term called celebrity star. I don't think people knew something called influencer. So I think it has been on the minds of everyone in last 4-5 years, and I don't think
That's
before
so
that,
true.
at least not for
That's
me.
so true. Mm.
And for me, it was someone who was known to a lot of people, who has a glamorous life, who would come on like Instagram, say something, and people would just love it. But in the last 2-3 years, like accidentally, when I started sharing a lot of things on my LinkedIn, and people started calling me influencer, I just realized it's not just how it looks from outside, that someone who has a lot of followers or people just know this person. It is more about what you're adding to other people's life. As the word says, influencer. You
True.
are influencing someone to do something which has added value to your life. If you differentiate it with a term called celebrity, that person was more related to the entire movie world. That person looks very nice. That person acts very well. And maybe you will see that person on a lot of TV ads. But when you
Mm.
talk about influencer, it's a very specific niche.
Mm.
That particular problem would be touched. For example, let's say if someone is an AI influencer or
Mm.
someone is an educational influencer. Like I create content around education, how can I be more productive? So these are the things that have worked for me, and I'm just sharing it with them. People are liking it because these
Yeah.
might be adding value to their life. So it comes with a lot of responsibility around what you put, and the objective is to like share more and add value to the audience. So that's how I look at this entire concept of influencer and how it is different from celebrity.
Lovely, lovely, Nanu. I think, what you're saying is the world has democratized. I think social media has democratized celebrity status as such
Yeah.
and put the power in the hands of people in very, very different ways. So
Right.
how you pick it up and carry forward becomes so very critical in today's world and day and age. Happy to hear your views, Jumna.
Yeah, no, I think very fair point that it's just catering to a larger sort of group of people and creating that personalized experience. Yeah, I think the reason why I shy away from the word influencer is just it's a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah.
That you have the power to be able to incite conversations and shape people's lives. So, but like you're saying, I think this is fantastic for the world as a large. Like a kid sitting in a village in India could like we saw with the 75 hard thing and Ankit, right?
Yeah.
It's just anyone can share their lives and make this a living, and I think that's so incredible. Um, Especially like I'm really interested in the TV and media industry. I think that is something that is so gate kept, right?
Yeah.
So to have this medium where like there's this guy, he's called Anthony Bourdain. I don't know if you guys have heard about him. So he was a chef, right, and not a very good chef.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
At 44, he writes an article and sends it across, right? He hadn't made rent on time in 10 years.
Mm.
He sends an article across, someone picks it up, right? A year later, he has his own show, right? Where he's traveling the world, meeting
Yeah.
new people, doing that for a living.
Right.
So I
Right.
think that sort of asymmetric returns that the internet can provide and being a creator can provide is just so exciting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a world of opportunities.
Yeah.
But in a sense, is it getting overcrowded?
Not at all.
I think yes, somewhere yes. And that's because of the mindset that people has regarding creators, influencers, or whatever you call it. People call it easy money. So they think that, okay, I'll also become a creator the next day. I'll put up a lot of videos. I'll also shoot content. And because of this, a lot of people are getting into it. Some are really good, some are adding value. But for some, you will find that maybe they are doing it because they think it's easy money.
Mm.
The problem with such people is when this market is overcrowded, even from brands perspective, from basically the suppliers perspective who pay money to these creators,
Yes.
they think that okay, it's better to get 100 creators with let's say 50,000 followers rather than getting a creator with 4 lakh followers, because these creators would charge less money, and all of this affects the creator economy. And people just start seeing creators as like, the respect goes down when this space is overcrowded.
Right.
They think that okay, this person would work with less money, so let's just take that person.
Right.
So all of this is happening in the industry at this point of time. But having said that, if you're someone who really adds value, who have been in the industry for long, I think you will see the returns, you'll make the returns, but it has become competitive.
So how does one create a niche? Jumna, you have a point on this?
No, yeah. So I think I agree with your last point. And the thing is, why I don't agree that it's overcrowded, because the quality.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I said.
It's just
Quality,
correct. It is
quality is
really-
still limited.
Yeah, really bad. Like I think
Yeah.
what people come in and do is copy paste. Right? They see their
Exactly.
favorite creator and they think, यार ये तो मेरे लिए
Yeah.
सही है, right?
Yeah.
And they वो कर सकते हो, मैं भी कर सकता हूँ types, right? And then if you have the knowledge, I think there are less people coming in that are
Exactly.
gonna say, like, study the algorithm for 10 hours a day for 30 days, right? Who are actually treating it as a career. But I
Correct.
think if you treat it as a professional athlete, right, then I think it's not overcrowded at all.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's there is a lot of space. And I was talking to a filmmaker yesterday,
Mm.
and he was like, listen, I have no concern over my job, because the appetite for video content, if you start scrolling reels today, till the day you die, you will not run out of reels. Right? It will stop all reel production.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's that much content, because there is that much of an
Appetite.
audience.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone, like, if you see kids 10 to 18, 10 to 20 years old, the average screen time must be 4-5 hours.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
in terms of that, I think this is the most democratized industry in terms of you can be anyone. And if you just put in the time, I do not think it's hard to be a creator. Let's just say Mr. Beast, right? Have you seen?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
so-
Yes. Yes.
So that guy, right? He has Crohn's disease. He had no personality initially, right? He wasn't very funny. He was a very introverted kid. He spent 10 years and he got no views, but he just kept at it, and he studied the algorithm 18 hours a day. He used to get on 18-hour calls every day for like 7 days a week.
But how does a person study an algorithm 18 hours a day? I need to crack that.
No, fair enough. Like, I think,
But I get what you're saying. You're saying if you're putting in that effort,
Yeah.
that time, and if
Yeah.
there is the intent to stay the course,
yeah,
not make the quick buck, not
Yeah.
not be in a hurry, but stay the course, create valid content,
yeah.
and also not copy.
Yeah, I don't think art is original, personally.
Mm.
Right? Like, my videos, you can take my first videos and see how they are almost like 10 of my favorite creators merged into one.
Mm.
Right? So I think you're always copying, you're always imitating.
Mm.
But how do you
Copying
make it
is
your
a strong word. Imitating is better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
That's seen as a bad word. But yeah, so I think in terms of that, the people that are actually pursuing it as a professional athlete, I'm not at that stage yet. Like, we're all doing jobs and all of that. I think that is 0.1%. If you actually commit, I think if Mr. Beast can make it, and he's the biggest YouTuber in the world,
Great,
right?
yeah.
And I think his main quality was grit,
Yes.
not his personality, not his money, not anything. Right now, it's become money.
Mm.
So I think there's a lot of space.
Mm. Mm. Both of you make extremely valid points, and I think one led to another.
Yeah.
So my question right now is then how you answered it in part, Jumna, but how do you create this niche? How does one bring that authenticity? How does one, obviously one starts by, like you said, top 10 creators, imitate their themes, or get a platform and get started.
Yeah.
But how do you proceed, and how do you build yourself on this platform?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I was sort of sharing with you guys initially, I started making content when I was 13, right? And this was RCB match reaction videos, right? And I've been making content for 6-7 years now, right? My first video that got 1 million views was about how I took a gap year and I shifted to Bangalore to do this internship. But that's not what excites me anymore, and I'm building my own startup, and I'd love for you guys to follow along on my journey. That got 1 million views, which is very, very authentically me. Right? The next video that got another 1 million views was about, a very good friend getting into Stanford and how they have changed my life and taught me to think so much better. Right? A very, very personal story. Right? So I think it just starts with, I was talking to Caleb from Backstage with Millionaires. It's a channel that covers Indian startups. Right? And he was around, and he saw my reel, and he completely broke it down in like this sucks. Okay. So his thing was, listen, you're not making me care. Why should the audience care about you? Right? everything you're putting out, it should be like, okay, why should the audience back you, right? Because what you are saying, 1,000 different people are saying the exact same thing, right? But what makes it uniquely you? Why should they be like, okay, Jumna is building an edtech, so are Jumna is building a college counseling firm, so are 100 other guys that are also building personal brands. Why should I back Jumna? It's the story. So I feel like if you're telling stories, you're being authentically you, no one else can imitate that, right? And if you strike a chord with your audience, I think that's what sets creators apart.
Phenomenal. And coming to you, Nandini, you were mentioning just before we started that your first post got you some million impressions and 45,000 likes, even without you expecting, and that came from an academic achievement.
Yeah.
So my question, my question always is like the way you said about an idea to execution, achievement to publicity. Where does these two worlds meet? Like, what comes first? Do you need to be like a solid person before you become an influencer, or you become an influencer and in the process become a solid person? How does that whole thing work?
I think I've seen both stories working. I think it is very different for everyone. For me, it was becoming CA, getting this record, getting this All India Rank 1, and then writing about it. And all of my background really helped me a lot to get all the love that I get from my audience. But I've seen people starting from scratch and they just put content which is useful, and then they become like a solid person, like you just said, and someone who like everyone knows, someone who everyone looks up to. So yeah, I think it's both ways for every different person.
I think I'll disagree slightly there. I think all the best creators I've seen, they've always had something with them. Like I'd say Dev Rayani also, right? He made random reels, but at his core, he was a fantastic filmmaker and a musician, right? At my core, I'm a founder. At your core, you're a CA, right? So I think that essential, like core personality has to be there. I think there was a stage where you could put out dancing reels or something like that, or memes, and you could still blow up, but then you're not relevant anymore. There has to be a why should I continue caring about this person? And I think that comes from a very core skill, like either you're funny or you're building something, or
or you're an exceptional dancer.
Yeah, exceptional dancer, like that's your career.
Dancer. That's your career,
right?
But let's say if we take example of Ranveer Alabadia or Raj Shamani, what were they before they became a podcaster? Who knew them?
I think like Ranveer, he has anchored his things from like it was fitness. He was a trainer for Tanmay Bhatt, right?
But he was putting it out there.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my point. Like you start putting it out there, and then people realize you are doing something good.
Absolutely.
And you are there with like some good people there who are famous, and then you become famous.
Yeah.
And similarly for Raj Shamani.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. I think if you're documenting the journey, that is fair.
That's what I meant. Like they don't come from a solid background, or they didn't have an identity, but they build it through the journey.
Absolutely. Like I think my first video was also just that I'm building a startup. Like why don't you guys come along? Right. But there was a stage in the internet where even if you didn't have something going for you and you were just putting stuff out there, trends, following trends, and then become an influencer, that sort of worked. That doesn't work anymore.
Because of the number of content creators, I think people are looking for value.
Yes.
And even if you are building from scratch, picking up from what you're saying, Nandini, you have to start building it as a journey and creating the value.
Correct.
Exactly. And similarly, Mr. Beast, I don't think he had some kind of following. He was famous or he had any core skill. But he just started the journey. He was so consistent, and like you said, he had the grit. So he's here. There he is.
So does content creation kind of put that pressure on you, or build that consistency in you that now I have to stick up to whatever I've put out, I have to live up to that reputation? Does that become the motivation to do better? If I have to pick up a beer biceps or some such story that now I have to get my six-pack, or now I have to go keep putting out fitness reels again and again, so I have to get better at it. Does it play out that way?
I think growing up on the internet is something, right? Like I'm 20. I know if I'm creating content for the next 20 years, I will screw up, right? I will say something I shouldn't have. And it is immense pressure because I feel like I have this very unique position as a young queer founder woman, right, in this space to do a lot of good, right? But I think just because I'm 20, I feel like my worldviews right now, within 5 years, I'll be a very, very different person.
Right.
So I don't think you have to live up to it, but I think you do have to be very, very authentic about it and honest about it. And if you're sharing that process of changing, right, with your audience is also, my audience also growing up with me, right? Most of my audience is under 25. So I think there's still some sort of forgiveness there, but I think it is a lot of pressure to just be right all the time. Like I'm constantly thinking, okay, should I be saying this? Should I not be saying this?
Yeah.
Can I hold this opinion?
Yeah.
And I think in India, something I've noticed, I've gone to the US as well, right? I think in India, for young people to have opinions and put them out there isn't seen very nicely.
Is it?
Yeah.
From what I've seen personally, right? I think I live in a bubble in Bangalore and Mumbai, meeting folks like you that respect sort of what you've done, right? But I think with a lot of India, I've seen that people be like, "Yeah, you're a child, right? Like you're yeah. So in that part, maybe that's helpful, honestly. But yeah, having an opinion in India, I'm always dicey about it, right? Like I've seen a lot of hate through my career on the internet. Shark Tank, I got a lot of hate for Shark Tank. Got a lot of hate for taking a gap year, and I do a lot of things against the norm that would normally be done in India. So I'm always on my toes. It's an experience.
That's sad to note, because as part of the democratization, I thought this was also changing. This landscape was also changing, where people like you are taking the first steps to break some of those traditional thinking and norms. And I think we need more of it. Honestly, I think we need more of it.
I think that there is further nuance to it. So the people who you just said gave you a lot of hate, these are the people who have nothing to do but just to write comments on YouTube or LinkedIn post.
Correct.
So we need to differentiate what all sort of comments should affect us and what we should just ignore.
How do you all deal with hate?
So for me, I think when I became CEO at the age of 19, a lot of people commented, oh, she is immature, she would not get a job, or she would not do well in the corporate world. I applied for an investment banking job and I didn't get through, and the feedback that I got from recruiter was they thought you were so young and you would not be able to handle the pressure. So these are the kinds of things which people say about you when you do something at an early age, because they're not able to accept something which they haven't seen or they haven't done. But when I got into BCG, I was doing well. I was like, okay, it's okay. I'll just get through it. And that's why I was just telling you before we started recording that I became very reserved after all of this, because I was just known to 20 people, and now it is like 20 lakh people or like 2 crores of people.
And you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, so I was not actually able to handle it. I didn't know how to face social media, how to face a podcast, how to face a conversation, how to be politically correct, which like the word that people use is a lot.
Yeah.
So, but you learn with time. As long as you're confident of yourself and you think that you're doing well in life, I think it's okay to deal with all of it. But would love to hear from Jumna.
No, of course. So I think one thing I very quickly realized is everyone that I respect or is doing better than me, or they would always give me constructive criticism. Right? It would never be just pure hate. So the people that are giving pure hate, I know those are people's lives who I'd never want. Right? Obviously, you get curious. I've got a lot of hate comments. I'll go on their profile. Right? It's always people in trajectories of their life that I wouldn't really want. Right? Like you very rightly said, it's people that are maybe not doing a lot. So I realized if I wouldn't take advice from those people, why take hate from them? Right? I would never put 1 ounce of thought if they said, Jumna, you shouldn't be doing this, or you should be doing this. Right? I wouldn't take them seriously. So why take their hate seriously? Right? So yeah, I think it took me a while. I'm not gonna lie, like it did affect me.
Of course it does.
It
does.
Right? But after a point, I quickly realized that, okay, I think this is noise.
Fabulous. I think this is the growth. In all the years that we grow up, this is the real growth that has to happen for each of us. And if it's happening this early, apart from all your achievements, I think kudos to you girls on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we move on to the next section, if we can just encapsulate, your 3 pointers to influence, to a budding, aspiring, whatever you call influencer today. or a content creator? Let me not use the word influencer, content creator. What would you want to tell them?
I would just say be authentic, add value.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. So I'll add your first 30, 40, 50 videos are going to absolutely suck. Just keep at it. You just learn one. With every video, just change one different thing. You will do well. You will blow up. It's not hard. It's not rocket science, thankfully. It's not math. It's none of that, right? So yeah, just keep at it and be yourself.
Fabulous. Thank you, guys. So we move to this next section, and before I spend some time on who you are and where you come from, etc., we'll do an India section because this is an Independence Day episode.
Yeah.
And both of you represent the young aspiring India. So today, we live in a world that says it's going to be India's decade. The next 10 years is going to be India's decade. What are your views? What does that feel like to you individually for both?
When I think of India at this point of time, and since I have always worked in global environments, so I know what everyone in their respective countries are talking about it. One word is growth. Like, people see growth here. Every day there's a new startup. Every day there is a new problem that someone wants to solve. And in India, I think the accessibility is really good when it comes to like reaching out to people, resources that we want. People are happy to help, and you get the ecosystem that you want. So, I think there's a lot of scope, like everywhere. People are investing in India. If you compare India across all the countries, like this is called as an emerging market, emerging economy. So that's one. Second, I'm seeing that entrepreneurial shift in India.
Right.
And so I've spoken to people in Singapore. So I just asked one person randomly, hey, what's your plan? How does people think here? Do you see a lot of entrepreneurs? She just told me, no, it's like we go to college, we qualify, we do a job, then we again go for an MBA, and then we again came back, we'll again go for a job. So people are not really thinking about this spectrum at all. That, okay, there is something that they can build. And in India, with time, people have ingrained this in themselves. Like, I've spoken to a lot of people in corporates. I'm not sure whether I should say this or not, but 80% of people are just not happy with what they are doing. They all want to build something inside. They have a problem which they are fascinated about, they are passionate about, but something is stopping them because of the safety net and all the risk that comes with being an entrepreneur.
Right.
So,
income,
but a lot of
net.
people are coming out of their comfort zone and are trying to build something on their own. And personally, this inspires me a lot every single day. That you're doing something which not only fulfills your purpose, your passion, but also adds value to others' lives. So that's how currently I'm seeing India.
And you feel India is now giving that platform to this extended entrepreneurial.
I mean, see, there are problems everywhere, but there are solutions. So if you have grit, if you have purpose, you'll find a solution. Like Bangalore has become like people compare it to Silicon Valley.
Absolutely.
Whenever you think of a startup, people just start talking about, oh, you must be shifting to Bangalore. So that's the kind of image that Bangalore has got now. Even in Mumbai, there's a proper ecosystem. There are a lot of startup clubs. There are communities which you can talk to. I don't remember the name of this app, but there is an app. You download that, you pay the subscription. They will organize a dinner for you in which there would be 5-6 people from diverse backgrounds. They will book the place for you. You go there, meet those people. All interesting people. And they would just customize the kind of profiles which would be relevant for you. For example, one of my friends recently went there. The place was Bombay Canteen. They would organize dinner at very good places.
Right. Nice.
Very good people. So yeah, like I think there are things that can lead you to a solution, but you need to be proactive for it.
Lovely setup.
Yeah, I think I can build off of that.
Yes.
I think one thing I see lacking is, like you said, risk taking. So one of the things I like to do is I love talking to new people. So every weekend I go for breakfast with strangers. Okay, I'll text someone random on Instagram. Oh, I love what you're doing. different people, right? So one time I went with an IIM Bangalore grad, and she brought along her boyfriend and her brother as well. Okay,
That's a combination.
that was great. And all of them are IIM, right? All of them are IIM Bangalore grads, all in consulting, right? So I was asking them, I was talking to them and saying, yeah, you guys are so much smarter than me. You guys will build fantastic businesses, right? Why don't you, right? And they said very simply, look, Dimna, end of the month, 4, 5, 6 lakhs, it's our accounts. Why do I give that up, right? And there is that thing that comes with, okay, you're at IIM, all your friends are at a certain level. 0 to 1 again is so scary, right? Like, I feel like in India, it is still a very conformist society where if you fail at something that is a regular path, it's still okay. But if you fail at something that's an unconventional path, everyone's like, yaar, humne to bola tha, right? Just because I feel like I'm just adding an opinion from a very, very rebellious perspective, right? Having rebelled in everything that I should have traditionally done, right? I think it is definitely India's decade in terms of, because we have so much youth and we have exposure to the internet. We're seeing every day that what folks in the US are doing. 13-year-olds on Twitter making 3 lakhs a month, selling SaaS products, right? वो कर सकते हैं तो हम क्यों नहीं? Right? I think the only shift required to propel us to where we should be is just thoda sa aur risk, right? Like, I have friends in Bangalore that will work a job for 6 months, collect runway, build their startup for 6 months. When they run out of money, they'll go back, get the job, just so they have enough money to then continue building that startup.
Fascinating.
Right? And I think that's very exciting. Living in Bangalore also, I've realized it is the startup capital, but it's a very small bubble of people. Right? So when I was at Localhost, it was a fellowship where 10 founders, all of us strangers.
Pick your brains on that.
We came and lived together. So 2 or 3 of them were in deep tech. Within a week, they knew every big deep tech founder in Bangalore. Not every big deep tech, every deep tech founder in Bangalore. Because the community is actually very, very small in comparison. Most people, like when I was at the job, I've done 2-3 jobs. All of them were also like, yeah, they go, the career trajectory is this, MBA abroad and then jobs. So I think as soon as we have that shift where people think, yeah, startups are glamorous, right? You have give it a shot at least. I think there's when it'll become exponential, and like we are already seeing alternate universities come up in India where it's like, there are not, degrees also aren't there. But we see thousands of students signing up for them where every year you're building a different startup across your 4 years in UG. I think this is very, very exciting to see. So I think we're on the way. We just need to take a little bit more risks as a country.
Yeah. It'll take time. Like, this Singapore person that you described is our generation. That exactly defines our generation, because we went, took the work experience, took an MBA, went back to a work experience, and continued our lifetimes in that. The fact that you guys are thinking about it at 18, 19, and while you need the cushion, you need to keep going back to it for funding, and we all need to live lives, right? We all need the money at the end of the day. But I think this cohort is largely increasing. So that is fascinating. And so when the country backs you and gives you the platforms and all of that, then obviously this is going to be multifold in growth.
100%.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a quick rapid fire with both of you. Okay, couple of terminologies that I'm going to talk to you about, and just throw, and whatever comes to your mind first. There's no fastest fingers first. You can take your time and start. So the first is GDP and economy.
India.
Okay. Let's talk about mental health.
It's I think becoming less of a taboo. Exciting times, and with AI especially, I think in the startup world, every second startup is an AI therapist.
ChatGPT is a therapist.
So I mean, you see, there's a space to talk, and I'm glad it's become less of a taboo in it.
Okay, so that's next question is AI and deep tech.
Productivity.
What comes to your mind?
For me, AI is productivity and efficiency in everything that you do. Finding innovative ways to do things that you were doing by yourself.
Yeah, it's scary for me.
Okay.
I think it's great for the economy in the sense, I'll tell you why. I think we'll lose a lot of intern positions, right? Where in my internship, what I used to do was I used to spend 4 hours a day collating college names and numbers. AI can do that now.
Yeah.
I got my first job by writing timestamps. AI can do that now. Right? What do I do? Like, I would not have had a career. So I think when the grunt work gets eliminated and आपको internship positions मिल ही नहीं रही है, what do you do? Right? Maybe you'll start a startup. Maybe you'll say, okay, maybe I'll just try building something of my own. कुछ है तो नहीं summer में करने के लिए. I think in that sense, really exciting. But
Or I'll find the next best AI tool that can work for you.
yeah,
That itself
absolutely.
becomes like a
Yeah, that's
internship
right.
project.
You can now easily make an app through like some of the AI apps, Replit, Lovable.
Right.
And you sell that, not sell that, but maybe just you
Utilize
can
it,
you can like
broadcast
ask
it.
someone, okay, I'll build a customized app for you,
Mm.
and you just sell that.
Absolutely.
Women in workforce.
Lot of examples for me, but I would say evolution.
Evelyn.
It's evolving.
Interesting word.
Yeah, I'd love to see more in leadership positions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm very new to this. I think there's been a massive shift. So
So from where you people see, you see it as an evolution, or is that how I take it?
so I haven't been in the workforce long enough. I think, but I'm sure there has been. But so I'm coming in the position where there are women in the workforce, but I don't see any leadership positions in the places I've worked at or in the circles I'm in. And so I'd love to see that sort of shift. So we have more role models there. But again, I feel like I haven't been there enough. I think you must have seen a massive evolution over time.
We are
It's
seeing it her.
It's happening.
Yeah.
As we speak, I think, the last 10 years, lot more
Yeah.
leadership positions. A lot of women have really made it to the top.
Right.
But of course, it's still a drop in the ocean.
Absolutely.
Given we
Yes.
are 50% contributors to the gender,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot more in leadership and boardrooms and all of that needs to happen.
Absolutely.
I've heard stories like when a women leader would be telling, I was the first female employee in this company, and now she's like at the partner or the MD and partner level.
Right.
So such stories are really inspiring.
Right,
Like
right.
when she was the first employee of that company, think of the problems she might have faced.
Right.
Like right from washroom to like having that environment where you feel comfortable to talk about your problems, to traveling with your colleagues
Yes.
for work,
Yes.
and then managing your family and work together without complaining about it, because otherwise people would think that you can't do it,
Yeah.
and they have a negative perception once you start telling about your problems.
Absolutely. But I think again that has democratized. People are willing to talk about it. Now,
Yeah.
when you talk about it, you realize that it's not only my problem.
Right.
Like everybody's facing the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then there is this cohesive strength that gets built. And then, oh, if you have faced it, so have I. And then we can build on it and we can grow.
Right.
So I think that again is changing and building. Startups. What's your view on startups? We spoke about it. But there is this thing, I'll tell you where I'm coming from. There was this take by the commerce minister that, maybe all our startups is driven in a particular direction, only for deliveries or only for a particular problem solving. We are not getting it all together. So do you have a view?
So when I think of startups, I actually think of quick commerce, because that's what I've been hearing a lot. And I've seen like leaders talking about it and saying that the entire e-commerce would shift to quick commerce. I don't know how much it is viable, but it's a very fascinating thing that we have built. If you talk to people in US, they can't imagine how Zepto and Blinkit works. They don't understand the concept of quick commerce,
Right.
because logistics cost is so affordable here as compared to what it is in US. They can't think of such an ecosystem.
Yes.
It takes you hours to make them understand how quick commerce works.
I think UPI, quick commerce, all of this has changed the way we do
Yeah.
business and the way we interact.
Yeah,
Like you don't need a purse anymore. You don't need anything. Right? You don't need.
like
yeah.
3 years back or maybe 2 years back, there was an ad on TV where a lady was just waking up and maybe like her husband told, oh, we don't have this vegetable or we need to get this. And then she was so lazy and then she said, oh, I would just order and get it.
Mm.
And then my mom said, like, who gets vegetables online? I would never do that. We need fresh vegetables. I would rather go to the market and get it. And now, like, I order all of them online. And then she does it for me as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So she's adapted as well. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Absolutely.
So
That's interesting.
that's the change that I have just noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like she's saying, right? Like I think that's why I think both of us. Would you disagree with what Piyush Goyal said?
About what?
Quick commerce and how it's a bad thing. That the youth.
He didn't say it's a bad thing. He said that there has to be a
A
lot
change.
more thinking. There has
Yeah.
to be a lot more that needs to be coming into the AI space, or into the startup space, than just focus on one problem and find multiple solutions. Like when there was an Uber, then there was an Ola and a Rapido and an entire ecosystem that came in transport. Then there's an
Yeah.
entire ecosystem that comes in quick commerce.
Right.
So ecosystems so there is one problem and somebody keeps bettering it and
Yeah.
coming to the best possible outcome out of it. So then maybe we should pick up more problems to solve. I think that's
Right.
where he was
Right, but
coming
he was also
from largely.
emphasizing on here deep tech mein.
Huh.
Right now, I think these are just words. Like there's no execution from the government side also, right? Like a lot of my friends are in deep tech, right? And they have no government support, they have no private support. Yes, it's going to AI tools and maybe like restaurants and rappers. Who's actually funding deep tech? Right? Deep tech is a very, very long play, and I think I understand that it'll take time, right? And this is something that doesn't have instant returns. There's no gratification. You are just in it for 5-10 years,
Yeah.
right? But so my issue is just when, when I hear statements like this from the government,
Yeah.
right, and them saying this is spoiling our youth. Boss,
Yeah.
fine, but if you have the support to back it up, there are founders that have shifted base from India because India is just not providing the support with clients in India, right? Let's forget deep tech. Agency clients in India, right? Like social media clients. It's like you are treated as if boss, you are their employee, right? And then when you think about funding from the government, it has improved by a lot, but in spaces like deep tech, I think there's a long way to go. So I think when their actions start matching up with their words, I will stand by it.
I also think sometimes people. So India has been kind of balancing between capitalism and socialism.
Correct.
So they just try to find an angle. Okay, what is the socialist angle to it? And all the startups thing and all the things that we are seeing, we are moving towards a capitalist economy. And in India, we all know about the income inequality and how it is increasing every day. So maybe government is thinking more on those lines, while growth really comes from being a capitalist economy. So
yeah, that's also a possibility. Yeah,
that's
socialist
what
versus a capitalist mindset, and how that changes the dynamics to what happens on the ground.
Because all the challenges from quick commerce, all these e-commerce, that the kirana shops, they are facing decline in revenues. They think that the person who delivers your food product, he's not getting paid enough. He's not making enough money, but he has to do it for a living.
Yeah.
So how can you do better for them?
Absolutely. What would those youth be doing right now otherwise? Those tens of thousands of youth that are employed right now, what would they be doing
What would
otherwise?
they be doing
So
otherwise?
when someone a minister comes and says, "Oh, you're ruining our youth,"
Yeah.
I think, okay, then if you're creating jobs instead, then very fair, right?
Yeah.
But if not, then
Let them do something.
correct, absolutely.
Fair. Great points, girls. I think from a rapid fire, we went into a long discussion on that one. So before we wind up in this section, if you ever got to meet the Prime Minister, which I think both of you will very soon, what would your suggestions on, say, education and innovation be before you leave the table?
On education, this is the topic which is very close to my heart. I would talk about all the flaws which are there in Indian education system and how we have very good benchmarks from US. So I don't know, you might have read this story somewhere, or maybe I was just listening to it. So US was never US. It accidentally became US. There was this person called Harry Truman. He had this vision, okay, we are doing very good as an economy and we should beat number one for next coming 40, 50 decades. So he just called all the universities, Harvard, Wharton, that all the best research should go from here. We would invite foreign students. Our curriculum should be at the top. If you go there, how people study there, it is more case study based. You grow as a personality. In India, yes, we are trying to change our curriculum, but we are very far. A seventh grade student still thinks about कि कल test है और ये मुझे याद करना. I need to learn this. Even in 10th grade, you are mugging up the answers okay, you are trying to understand the concept as well, but how are you applying them in the real world?
Right.
They are never taught about business, and then suddenly after your let's say MBA or graduation, you are thrown into a business world which you never actually knew.
Correct.
You were doing something which, okay, maybe made you more educated person, but how do you apply that? You were never taught about business. You were never taught about how to sell, how to communicate
How
better.
to communicate, how
Yeah.
to, our education system, I don't think covers any of the soft skills.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
when you're thrown in, you just have to figure yourself out. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like where they work. They just feel lonely. They just feel missed out. Somewhere they all feel that, okay, this is not something I wanted to do, but I have no option to do anything else. So, yeah.
Okay. Cool. On innovation?
You want to take it?
Yeah, no, I think I'll just add one point to hers. I think I studied in the US, right? And I think what they do the best is exploration. And more than even like practical skills, like our courses I feel like are similar, honestly. The econ I studied there, the econ I studied at NSR will be thoda similar. But if you want to pass, so their system is you have to do 120 credits. Now 50 of those credits have to be in a subject not that you've picked, right? So I took a health course, I took a CS course, I took an English course, I took a film course, right? And that opened my world up, right? So if I would definitely recommend for both education and innovation, how do you solve for something or how do you chase excellence if you've never seen it, right? If you've never actually explored these fields, right? So I would definitely recommend, honestly, gap years. I think everyone should take a gap year. Go work at a startup for 3 months, build your own startup for 3 months, travel the world for 3 months, go work in a farm or, like tea leaves, like a tea leaf farm for 3 months, right? Just so that you can actually open your world up, right? Because I think in India, it's a pretty, like you said, like a pretty traditional, आप degree जो लेते हो, उसमें आप masters लेते हो, फिर उसी में आप job करते हो and you climb the corporate ladder up, right?
Yeah.
What if you were meant to be the world's best singer, but you just
Yeah.
never tried it? Right, so some sort of thing where we can, I think that will benefit both education and innovation, just exploration more, right? Not just like कि आप एक बात पकड़ लो 10th standard में आपने science पकड़ ली तो बस आप पूरी जिंदगी engineer क्यों है?
And I think this is similar to the old Gurukul system that India originally had,
Correct.
wherein you used to learn, you used to work in parallel,
Correct.
and you would learn everything. कि अगर आपका कोई कपड़ा भी फट गया उसको सिलना कैसे है, खाना कैसे बनाना है, all the basic life skills you will learn,
Absolutely.
and you would be punished if you are not able to do it. Yeah,
Right.
like this was like very 360-degree learning.
Right.
But
right,
after
right.
Britishers, we just came into this kind of curriculum that we have.
Yeah.
So, girls, we step into this into another topic that's often discussed, at least in the corporate world. I don't know how you people view it. Work-life balance. Okay, so there was this colleague of mine who said work-life balance actually doesn't exist. It's a myth. The balance has to come from within.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
what we are that we take into whichever setup, and that's what work-life balance is about. So, what are your views on?
I think so. I've been talking about this a lot with my colleagues and one of my seniors as well. So he says this thing that what you have chosen is a choice you have made. So if you think you're working a lot, you can always choose not to do it and make another choice wherein you work less and have more time for your loved ones or for your hobbies, passion, etc. So I think somewhere when people are cribbing a lot about work-life balance, they're actually cribbing about the choices that you have made for yourself. And secondly, like you said, it has to come from within. So if you really enjoy something that you do, you don't need like separate time. You don't need to separate yourself out from it and think of it as life. Okay, I was working and now I'm just living. It is a mix of both. It becomes difficult when you're working in a corporate because it's like you're out of your home, you're constantly working. Let's say if you're working for 16 hours a day, you don't have much time left to spend with your family, your kids, etc. And I think that's where prioritization comes into picture. If there is an important project going on, you prioritize your work for 1 week, 2 weeks, but maybe then for like next 2 weeks, you come back home on time. You spend time with your family, friends over weekends. So I think it's more about prioritizing and making a choice about the kind of life you want.
So it's doable. It's largely
It's doable.
doable.
Yeah,
See.
I think so.
you don't need to carry that stress.
Yeah,
Right?
so I think Swiggy founder was saying one day that I don't believe on like 18 hours or like a lot of hours working every day. There's always time you can make for yourself. And yeah, he was talking because nowadays people are promoting hustling culture a lot. You should work 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week. Like, why?
What are your views on the 70-hour a week, 80-hour a week? You guys must be working that hard anyway.
Yeah, but it's like if you love it, you don't feel like it's putting a lot of pressure on your mind, right?
Correct. Like, I think I'm the worst person to ask about this. Because why? Because when Project Clay was working, it was going on, I was working 18 hours a day, no holidays,
Yeah.
right? So what I do is I'll do that for 4-5 months, and like now I've run away to Mumbai. I'm spending 10 days here, and I'm meeting people. So for like 4-5 months, I'll be locked in an office, just working. And then here now, I'm meeting 5-6 new people every day, right, across 7 days. So I
Yeah.
get my years worth of socializing in. So I don't know, like I feel like I have no responsibilities right now, right? Like I have no life to be living up to. I have no wife, I have no kids, right? I have friends, but I think friends come in phases, they go. So I don't know about my thoughts on work-life balance actually, because I think I treat it in a very work first and then life at the side, because it's just something I truly enjoy, like she said.
But your
right?
work is your life.
Yeah, my work becomes my life, right? And I think especially when you're putting so much of your life out on the internet as well, what is the line between work and life?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've
it's
cracked
all
it.
blurred.
It is blurred, very, very blurred. So I don't think I've cracked it, honestly. I think like, I've seen creators, that have blown up on the internet. There was creator Elle Mills. All her life, she was a YouTuber. She finally did become one. And then she realized her whole life is on the internet and there's just no lines. And then she just quit, right, for good. Now she just makes 1 or 2 films a year. So I don't know, when does it get too much and when do you burn out?
That's what I said. You have to make a choice.
Yeah.
Like what do you put on
Correct.
the internet?
Correct.
What part of life you want to share or you want to
Correct.
keep private?
Correct.
Else you feel diluted. Like everything is there.
Yeah. Everyone
just-
knows me. Like,
yeah.
I think that should be a privilege, right? But I think, now like most of my
I think there
life
should be a boundary to it. Not
Correct.
everyone should know where you are right now.
Correct.
I think that feels like a bit unsafe thing to me.
Correct.
That people know, okay, I am in Goa at this point of time. Like
Correct.
I post my holiday stories after I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm in Goa,
Yeah.
but I'm in Mumbai.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's
yeah.
damn odd, right? Like, I think just from a very like Gen Z perspective and going into this, like, let's take dating for example,
Yeah.
right? You're on an app, right? And someone says, "Oh, I've seen you on Shark Tank." So it's like, and then you can never go out with that person. Right? Because you put on such a pedestal after that.
Yeah.
That what is the difference between work and life? I don't know. I have no clue.
But it's beautiful because you all represent also 2 different worlds, right?
Yeah.
So in a startup world, there is, from what I hear,
yeah,
there is no, it's all blurred.
it's
Yeah.
blurred.
And in the corporate world, you need to make your choices and you need to prioritize in such a way that you navigate where work starts or ends and where life begins. And यहाँ पे तो कुछ उपाय नहीं है. You call running away to Mumbai and that kind of defines it for me. So, both of you have lived outside of metros, and then done stints in the metros. So, can you talk to us about aspirations in life in non-metro versus metro, and how life is panned out from that perspective?
You want to take that first?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I lived in Goa all my life till I was 15. And then I came to Bangalore and I instantly fell in love with the city, right? Because in Goa, right, when I was working and I was building shadow, I was like, "Kyu kar rahe ho, boss? Like, chill karo na." And in Goa, it's a very, like, our motto is Susegad. Susegad means aram se, right? You have to, the shops open up late, right? And you're going to take that lunch break and it wraps up early in the evening. Best place for work-life balance. Right? If you all know about work-life balance goals, other ones to eat, and they're truly happy, right? So no complaints there. I think lovely city. But it was not something that I want to do, and I was really ambitious, right? So I think when I came to Bangalore, everyone's first reaction wasn't why you building a startup. It was how can we help you 10x, right? So personally, I think metros just fuel ambition, right? Like in Mumbai, I love at sitting at night and just looking at the towering buildings, just endless possibilities. Everyone's here with a dream. So I love the metros, but if I'd want to retire near the beach. The goal is a
Of course.
house near the beach.
Good luck on that.
Yeah.
Good luck.
For me, the world is very different. World was very different when I was there. It was like very like minus of Goa.
Yeah.
What you have seen in Goa. I've been to Goa. If you talk about ambition, you will not find a lot of ambitious people there, but you will find a set of people who are very ambitious.
Hmm.
And the good part about coming from a small town is you know how to figure out things because you don't have a lot of resources. You always have a scarcity of connects. Maybe like there was no ICI center where I come from. I had to travel to Gwalior for giving my exams. I had no offline coachings for CA there, so I went through online. So there are numerous problems. But when you come from a small town, you learn how to figure out because you know I have to reach there and this is what I have and I need to make the best out of it. When it comes to opportunity, you don't have much opportunities there. If you start working there as well, you'll not grow beyond a point because population is less, people's perspective is not that wide, people are happy with 2 meals and a nap of 1 hour in the day and all of those things. People don't dream beyond a point. And when you get out of that area, and especially when you are ambitious, you meet like a very new world. I shifted to Delhi in October 2018 and it changed me. It changed everything about my life. I learned so many things which I had no clue about. I had never stepped out of my house in Morena alone. And in Delhi, I was traveling on my own. I felt so good about myself.
Absolutely.
I got the freedom which I always wanted to have. In remote town and small town, you don't have that much freedom for the practical reasons as well. You will not see anyone after 7. You will not see girls going out alone there usually. But in Delhi, this was very normal. I became so independent.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted in my life. And that's why I studied a lot. And when you come from a small town, you are able to appreciate all of it a lot.
And there is that hunger,
Yes.
that you want to achieve that and you want to get to that point. And I think that's the India story also parallelly playing up, the urbanization and all of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but I'd love to ask you personally. Like, I think when I've seen in Goa, right, everyone's happy. Everyone's happy, right? They have their whatever, everything sorted. In the metros, like when I ask people, "Are you happy?" There's always a hesitation. So, what do you think is the secret to happiness? Like, what should we be chasing?
Or maybe you should ask this question first. Are you happy?
Fair enough. Fair
in
enough.
Bombay, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
Very honestly, because I think the city kind of lends itself that charm that you can do anything. You can be anything in the city and you can exist. There's nobody judging you. There's nobody questioning you. All of those things exist.
Yeah.
2 is that most people here, I think, are too busy to even stop to think whether they are happy or unhappy.
That is true.
I think when, like Monday to Friday, I don't have time to know whether I'm happy or unhappy. Maybe on a weekend, I might wake up to the question.
Yeah.
But again, like what Nandini says, you choose what you want to spend your energy on.
Right.
You choose what people you want to spend with, activities that you want to spend with, etc. And you develop that web of happiness
Yeah.
in your own space. I think it's a very, very internal, personal decision. Happiness is a very, I don't think a city or a house or a job or any of it is going to lead you to when you're feeling grateful or happy within. So that we have to work towards, I feel.
So you
wherever
think
we are.
it's a choice that you can actively make, like to be happy?
Yes, I strongly believe so.
Right.
Of course, there can be circumstances which will make it harder and you
Yeah.
have to navigate them.
Yeah.
But I think it's an everyday choice that we make to stay happy. That's my take.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Very true.
So I wanted to know from both of you because, you mentioned, I've seen your post with your mom. You've mentioned, your support from your parents and how, he encourages the startup
Yeah.
Kida in you.
Absolutely.
So what has support from parents been in this generation? What does it mean to you guys? How does it play out?
I think when I was building Project Clay and then Shark Tank happened, my parents were like, listen, boss, we'll support you whatever you choose. But you have to pick now. Like, pick a college. Either pick you're going to college or pick you're going to Project Clay full time. Right? My father is also a dropout. So I think that
Yeah.
support has been in a very clear. They go, as long as anything that's happened, right? Like whether the fact that I'm queer or anything, it's just been always, listen, boss, build a business, make your money. Other than that, it's your life, right? So in that sense, like when I was building Project, I'd call my father every single day.
Mm.
That this is what's happened in business. What do you think? And he'd sit with me for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, right? And tell me how he would approach it. And all my life, I think when he used to come back from work, we talk about business for like 3-4 hours a day. So in that sense, I think business wise, I have been immensely supported by my family. I'm a fifth generation entrepreneur as well.
Oh, wow.
I think that is an immense privilege
Yeah.
to have that much knowledge to draw upon and that exposure at such a young age, right? Where everyone is only talking about startups all day and dhanda and money.
And the risk taking that you say,
Yeah.
that if it's ingrained, it's such a huge privilege.
Correct.
Mm.
Immense. Right? Like I think in terms of my upbringing, what I've been the most privileged is just my parents have taught me that there is no limit to what I can do.
Mm.
Right? Whatever I'm thinking, they'll always think I'm thinking too small for myself.
Mm.
Right? So that sort of support and belief and love has been incredible.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
Wow.
For
Really,
me, yeah,
wow.
wow. For me, I think support has been more emotional
Mm.
because I come from a place like I described. My father has his own tax practicing firm. So we do all the GST and ITR returns thing. And there's a market in Morena itself and some
Mm.
nearby towns. So that's what we do. And they are pretty happy with their life. So they never actually pushed harder to, okay, you need to do this or that. So I made my own dreams. I just started searching what can be done, what is Big Four. Like when I was doing my CA Inter, I was searching, okay, what is PwC, what is Deloitte, all of that. So I think I always had very high dreams. Okay, like as a child, I would think I want to build an empire. When I would see all the big companies on TV. So my inspiration came from what I was watching. When I saw that, okay, someone is getting a lot of respect and fame. Why? Because that person has some business or that person has built something. So all of these things inspired me a lot. And my parents were always there for me whenever I said that, okay, I want to do something big, I want to do this or that. And they always motivated me, yes, you can do it. So my father especially, he would always say that, so you would have, you would all know that Hanumanji and Jamwan's story. So Jamwanji said that to Hanumanji, you don't know कि तुम क्या क्या कर सकते हो. Hanumanji didn't know that he can fly. And Jamwanji made him realize you can fly. So my father always says this to me, that you don't know what you can do.
Beautiful.
You are limitless. You should just try it out. So that emotional support in everything I do just fuels that energy in me. That okay, I'll do it. So yeah, that's how it looks like for me.
Beautiful again. I mean, this is very heartwarming in to hear this. And so, I mean, does that translate into friendships as well? Because friendships is a concept. How does it play out in your generation today?
Good question. Yeah, I feel like I'd say I have a very unstable sort of life, right? Like every 6 months I'm in a new city. Every 6 months I have a different career. Every 6 months I have new friends. But I think mostly I've had like a couple of them that have been there through, just because in entrepreneurship, right, every day sucks. Like there's no better way to put it. Like every day you're solving some sort of problem that no one else wants to solve. That's your job as a founder. Just to, take care of the shitty work.
Yeah.
So I think that has been, from dropping out to, the company shutting down and everything that went wrong. That emotional support in friendships has been very important. And there's always been 1 or 2 people there showing up, like I have a friend, he'll call me every single day. Like, listen,
Oh, sweet.
yeah, when the company was going on, right?
Yeah.
He was like, listen, I know you're working all day. You need 30 minutes to do something outside of work. So you better pick up my calls, right? But I look at it as phases, mainly like people come and go in phases, especially since I've been to boarding school as well. I've been to college for 6 months and all of this. So I've had people cycling over really quickly, but going to boarding school also made me realize how important people are, right? Then shifting to a new country and having those friends, and then shifting to Bangalore and then coming to Mumbai. People are very important, but it is tough when you're sort of all in to one thing to maintain that. So I am figuring that out. I would love any tips or advice from you guys for sure.
No, completely fair point. So when I was doing CA, I was completely out of touch. But you know, when they are a true friends, they understand.
Correct.
And they would always be there when you call them.
Absolutely.
Or when you need them or just wants to talk.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
I think that has always been the case with me. I'm so lucky to have really good friends in my life. And whenever I call them, they are there. They understand that I am busy, I'm having a bad day, or maybe I'm having a very busy week. So they all understand. And I think, like, I am at this age, my friends are that age that we are pretty mature in that way that everyone is trying to figure out something. So no one has that expectations that, okay, she or he will call me every day. So that's the kind of people you like need around yourself. And whenever I tell them, okay, this is the next update, this is what I'm going to do or I'm going to try, they're like always there. Yeah, Nandini, go for it. We are there for you. You will do it. You will kill it. So I've also got like immense support from my friends to the extent they can.
Brilliant. So actually, I was in my mind worrying if possibly with all this exponential social media and all of those kind of friendships, do real friendships last anymore? But talking to both of you, there are those one or two that
they do
that you latch onto or you need.
Yeah.
You need. I think that's a good word
to navigate the space.
Yeah,
definitely.
So that brings me to, what all this could lead to is also, burnout, mental health. That becomes very, very important.
Yeah.
So how do you all balance it? How do you handle it?
For me, it's like talking to my parents, talking to my friends, going out, playing pickleball, gymming, dancing. I love going for my dance class, meditation. So all these things I do to make sure that I take care of my mental health. For me, it's like talking to my family and friends is such an energizer. I feel so motivated in life after talking to them. And when I play something, like dance is that one thing when I am dancing, I just forget everything. I don't think of anything. So doing anything which makes me forget everything is like.
How many years have you learned dance?
No, I haven't learned as such. I started learning last year.
Do a lot of this.
It's like a proper hobby for me. I'm not looking for any competition or becoming a professional in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love it.
It's nice to always have a bunch of things outside of work. I think it's almost critical.
Yeah. And meditation really helps.
Meditation.
Just taking out 10-15 minutes, not doing anything.
I'm so surprised you'll have started so early. For us, for this wisdom to dawn, it took us at least 20-25 years to kuch to karna hai to keep us in one shape.
It all comes from families. My parents are into all of this a lot. My mother meditates. She has been connected to Brahma Kumari since a long period of time.
Wow. Okay.
So all of these meditations, spiritual things are coming from there. I started reading Bhagavad Gita like 3-4 years back. Read it like 2-3 times. And all of these things actually interest me a lot. So whenever I get time, I just read any of these books and just know about life, how to understand yourself better.
Yeah, I think wrong person to ask. I burn out a lot, right? Because of the sprints I do, right? I think another thing is, someone I was talking to said this, you also burn out when you're doing something you hate repeatedly. Right? So I try to ensure that what I'm doing is actually what I want to do. I think watching movies helps. I'll go alone to a theater every now and then, but I don't know how to. I need to learn balance. I do everything in extremes. So
it's addictive, right?
It's very addictive. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because if everything's going good, you're like, chalo, kar hi lete hain. Like, what is sleep? What is food?
Yeah.
So I have to figure it out.
You will.
Yeah.
So movies help.
Yeah, I love that. I think But now I'm thinking of making that my career now, so I don't know. I think
This is addictive.
yeah. So I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know.
So, is there a hustle culture?
Yeah.
I see it. on
I'm
myself.
asking the
Yeah.
hustlers. So sorry, I think the wrong question. So, what will make it more holistic? Let me put that. What will make it more holistic, or what choices will make it more whole?
I don't know if I wanted to be holistic right now. Like I think I have a couple of years. I think what I've realized is like if I was in relationships and friendships and all that, I realized I wasn't fully there. I was always thinking about work. And the thing is, there will be a point in my life where I will have to balance. Like if I have a family and I have kids, I'll have to set aside time. Right? That's a choice I make. So I see it as I have 5 to 7 years. So if there is something that I want to chase and accomplish, why not?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not hurting myself. And then when I burn out, I get to do trips like these and meet cool people. So it's been working pretty well for me so far.
Yeah, that's very right. Doing things in sprints really help. For example, for next 3 months, let's say you pick your work and your health to prioritize. Maybe next 2 months you pick maybe work plus friends. So you just start prioritizing things in next 2 months, then something in next 2 months. So it helps to balance out everything, and you are very focused on what you are doing at that time. And you don't need to be holistic, as she said rightly.
Yeah, but I'd love to hear your opinions. Do
Yeah.
you think we're wrong? Or
No, it's fabulous. I'm loving the perspective that I'm getting, honestly, because I think if not now, when? Even the podcast for me, was like, if not now, when?
Yeah.
If there's something you want to do, you have to go out there and achieve it. And when you want to achieve something, that extra effort, the little bit of the sleeplessness, all of that has to come.
Yeah.
But the noise, I won't call it noise, but the empirical evidence that comes out of some of these things, not missing sleep, not missing your meals, ensuring you do that little bit of, you call it deep breathing, spiritual reading, meditation, whatever you call it, all of that kind of grounds you and propels you to do better, I would think. I mean, that's where I come from when I say holistic, but I completely get it from where you are, that all that can wait.
And if you really like it goes parallelly.
Yes. If you can build it into a parallel ecosystem, nothing like it. When you'll carry such, heavy things on your shoulders, I don't know if I should call it heavy, like all your achievements, how does it feel? Like, how do you cope with it? The glamour and all that, is one part. How do you cope with it?
Yeah, so I think till Shark Tank, I was only driven by I have to prove people wrong. Right? My math teacher, I got a 0 on my test, and he was like, "Boss, you'll never do anything in life. You'll be the most unsuccessful person ever." I was like, "Okay, boss, like we will see." So I'm very happy. I know he must have watched the Shark Tank episode. I was very happy to prove him wrong. But after that, one of these days I was talking to a friend, and he was like, what would 15-year-old self, think of you, right? And he was asking it in more in a, what are you doing? I think of it in 15-year-old me would be awestruck. Like I would be her hero, right? Like, and I think that is what I'd love to be doing. Keep aspiring to be me 5 years from now, right? So now it's no longer driven by insecurity, but for the largest part of my life, it was just, I remember I had a wall, and this was in 7th standard, of stuff people had said to me and people had to prove wrong. And so for the longest time, you're very right. I think ambition came from there, but now it's become a very, look, I don't think any of it matters. Like, I'm of the belief that yaar, 2 generation mein sab hame bhool hi jayenge. So, there are certain things I'd like to do in my life. Yeah, so I think no longer driven by insecurity, more just, there is potential, why not do good on it?
Just go ahead and achieve it.
Yeah.
I'm just tempted to ask you all one last question in this space, because both of you have spoken about, affirmations or putting it up on the wall. So, how does that work?
I think, so I'll just explain it with a story. In 12th standard, I worked very hard. I was so anxious in my exams. I was targeting 99%, but I got like 94%. And I just realized, in my mind, I was always having negative thoughts. I'm studying so much, what if it doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out? And I just made a promise to myself, from now on, I'll just say positive things to myself. And from that time, I have always been happier than I was. And a lot of people say that, okay, कितना भी positive बोल रहे हो, you have to be practical. सिर्फ positive बोलने से कुछ नहीं होता है. I agree, but manifestations work if you work hard. So for me, that was the point where I realized the power of positive affirmations. And from then, I've always given myself positive affirmations. I'll just do the best. I'll be at the top of it. And it has always worked out well. And you feel good. You feel less stressed when you say positive things to yourself. A bit of stress is good because it makes you serious as well about what you are doing. But a lot of stress just kills the joy, kills your mental health, and eventually you don't do better. So yeah.
Yeah. So I need to learn this actually. I don't know. Affirmations don't sort of work for me anymore. Stuff I put up. It has to be what I've realized. I just need to keep chasing what I like doing. I've realized, when I don't like something and I hate it, it reflects my work, but more just burns me out faster. Right? Like I think I have this candle wick, right? And it'll be nice if I can slow that down. Right? So I've realized it's just chasing what I love, and right now it's meeting new people, going to cool new places, and if I can continue doing that, then that's good. But I'm trying to figure out how to keep myself motivated intrinsically, because right now it's more, like when you start going to the gym, you have inspiration for 2 days and then it wears out, and then it's about discipline. I don't think I've developed that discipline yet. I think I'm very hedonistic in that sense right now, but I do want to change that and be able to think more long term. Right now I can only think of the short term.
I think you're underplaying your creativity because creative people have this problem.
Yeah.
So I think it's just personalities and how we are and how much effort we need to take to drive to that balance.
Fair enough.
Interesting. You just told me that your 15-year-old self will be in awe of who you are today, right?
Yeah.
So my first question in the rapid fire, Dimna, is what advice will you give to your 15-year-old self?
Just it'll all work out. Don't be so hard on yourself. It eventually does.
What's your content diet?
Oh, a lot of films. So after the company shut, I think I went to the theater every single day for 10 days. I've run out of movies. I've seen every other language ka movie also. So a lot. I consume a lot of YouTube as well, but new age stuff. So less reels.
You go to the theaters to watch
Yeah.
Oh,
I love it. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Dead Poet Society.
Okay. Favorite book?
Shoe Dog.
Okay. And one advice to a startup founder starting out now.
Just start. Like I think what founders get very stuck in is market research karenge, MVP banayenge, like people research for 6 months. Kya kar rahe ho yaar? Like your idea that you go with to the market will never be the one that actually makes you money. It will change. So might as well go out there, talk to your customers, actually put it out there, see if they'll pay. That first 3 years I made no money. I thought this was a great idea. Just because people were coming for free. No one paid for that. I had to pivot my model. Monetize quick, build quick, launch. Stop thinking, and no one cares about you. I think that is also a very big thing. If we think that everyone's looking at us and judging us, no one cares. Right?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So now a quick sub-rapid fire for a startup.
Yeah.
Okay. Bootstrap or investment back?
Bootstrapped as much as
No, I agree.
as far as possible, because you're your own boss to a very large extent. You can make your own decisions. I've seen founders that have had to change because of what their investors said, but it didn't lie with their ethics. So personally, bootstrap for as long as possible. But if an investor is watching this, I'll happily take your money.
Side hustle or all in?
All in, always.
Yeah. So it can never be a.
It can always start as one, but I think the drive has to be there. Like again, professional athlete mindset. Like you come back from your job, then you have to devote nights and weekends to it. You can't skip, right? And there has to be that mindset. Ki eventually I have to leave this and build my side hustle full time. But if you're going to treat it as a side project only,
okay. And sector specific, diversified.
Specific. I think YC says this, and even all founders say this. Find 100 people that really love you rather than 5,000 people that sort of like you. Right? Because you can always expand from a lot of customer love. But if you're already like a terrible product, to find that love is tough.
Great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What are you currently dreaming about, Dimna?
Having my own film in theaters, being able to get paid to chase my passions. Small dreams, simple stuff.
None of it sounds small to me. Very good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much for
much.
being on
No, of
on our
course.
podcast.
Of course.
Nani, you go next.
Sure.
What's the advice that you will give your 14-year-old self?
Explore more, know about a lot of options that exist. I didn't know that I could go college while doing CA as well. So that's kind of one regret I had. I don't have it right now. But yeah, explore more, know more.
Three things that you would want a CA aspirant to avoid.
Non-planning. People don't plan generally in CA, they just start executing. Second, know why you are doing CA. A lot of people who are doing CA, they don't know the opportunities after CA, how much they are going to earn. When they qualify, they just get a shock. Okay, this is the work that we were supposed to do, or this is the money that we are going to earn. So know about it. And third, have some hobbies. Usually people in CA, they are known as boring people. Although my friends, people around me, they are very interesting people. But we need to change this perception.
Very nice. Favorite food?
Rajma chawal.
What's your content diet?
I watch podcast, which is around business, business case studies, then economy, and AI tools. So these are the three things that I'm currently watching.
So a quick rapid fire on work, on the kind of work people should do.
Okay.
Okay. So should we invest ourselves for a long term in a role, or move quickly?
Move quickly if you don't like it.
Okay. Dream job or stable opportunity?
Dream job. Yeah.
Money over passion?
It has to be both. I can't choose one. You can't. This is not sustainable.
Okay. What are you dreaming about currently?
I'm currently dreaming about something which is impacting, which would impact a lot of people, but at the same time make money as well for me, and something which is purposeful. So in my life I've defined, okay, these are the things that I want to do, or that's it, that is my purpose. So I'm just trying to find that intersection of where it would like fulfill all the criteria, which is, let's say, make me happy, make me money, and would impact. Like, I love the impact. Impact is very important to me. Whatever I do, I should see the impact. If it is not making impact, or if it is very indirect, I just lose my interest.
How do you define impact?
Very small example. Let's say I put out a video on YouTube, or I posted on LinkedIn about CA strategy. And let's say after a month or after 3 months, a student messages me, "Hi Nandini, I went through your post, I watched your videos, and I cleared my CA. This is the impact."
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Great.
what I love.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nandini. Thank you, Jumna. I think what you both have achieved, and I mean, more than the achievement, what you set out as standards for people who are aspiring and wanting to do well in their own little circle is phenomenal. And thank you for leading the way. And I think I'm going to see you all, breaking all the glass ceilings, disseminating it, and going way ahead. Good luck, and really thank you for being here.
Any
Thanks a
advice
lot.
for us?
I guess you guys are doing absolutely wonderful. The whole reason why I did this podcast, stepped away from the age group that we were targeting and doing this, was for us to understand how your generation thinks, how your generation behaves or responds to situations. And we have, for whatever good or bad, we moved from the generation of scarcity and created the generation of abundance.
Yeah.
You people are handed over the generation of opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think what you do with it is going to shape what India is going to be in the future.
Yeah.
And so kudos to that. You've already set the trend, and all the very best.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to yet another wonderful episode from VWP. It gives us enormous pleasure to create this content for you. If you enjoyed listening to the conversation, please hit the subscribe button and do let us know your favorite moments from the conversation. We would also love to hear if you have any guest recommendations for us. Of course, Please don't miss our shorts section where we have our favorite moments compiled in bite-sized formats for you. So keep listening, keep growing, and do subscribe to the We Women Project. This is your host signing off. Thank you.